So I just finished watching the 5th movie of the Harry Potter series, Harry Potter and the Order of Phoenix. This movie, to begin with, is shorter than the first 4 movies. It's about an hour and a half. The first few movies were between 2 and 2.5 hours. Well, the movie starts with Harry Potter being bullied by his cousin and his friends, and in some turn of events, it happens that Harry Potter and his cousin end up facing the Dementors, who are back from the 3rd or the 4th movie, and Harry Potter ends up saving his cousin from the Dementors, for which he had to use some of his tricks and magic. For this, Harry Potter gets busted, and he is now supposed to face the Court of Magic, where he apparently uses his magic outside of the wizard school, which is not allowed, so he has to face a jury. And he was about to get convicted, but Dumbledore comes to his rescue and actually rescues Harry. And actually Dumbledore, right from here throughout to the end, towards the end of the movie, doesn't actually talk to Harry much, and later in the movie you'll see why. But here Dumbledore rescues his favorite student, Harry Potter, from being adjudicated in this case for using his powers outside of the Hogwarts school. It so happens that one of the jurors in Harry Potter's case that was being held in front of the judge was Professor Dolores Umbridge, who actually comes on in this episode to become the Defense Against Dark Arts professor at Hogwarts. So she knows Harry and that he was almost being incriminated, and actually she doesn't like Harry Potter a lot, and that is seen throughout the movie, and she doesn't like anything to do with him, neither his friends or actually most of the students at Hogwarts. So here you are, Professor Umbridge is the new professor for the Defense Against Dark Arts, and later as the movie progresses you'll see how she also doesn't like the way things are run around Hogwarts, and she also at some point tries to take over Dumbledore. You'll also notice in this movie, the first half of it at least, is that Hagrid isn't a part of this movie, because Hagrid actually goes on during the beginning of the movie to find some support from the giants, which you'll see later in the movie that one of his giant friends happens to be his half-brother, and who at the end of the movie ends up rescuing Harry Potter and his friends from one of the bigger villains of this movie. I won't spoil it for you guys who that villain was. So here you are, no Hagrid in the first few minutes of the movie, or the first half of the movie. Professor Umbridge doesn't like Harry Potter, and Harry Potter is trying to, at this point, build an army for his defense against Voldemort, and he persuades his friends, and then his friends, Hermione, Ron, and Harry Potter himself, try and persuade the rest of the Hogwarts, at least their close friends, to be a part of Dumbledore's army, so they can defend themselves against the negative forces when the time comes. So Harry Potter and his friends start the Dumbledore's army, as they call it, and they start training within one of the hidden areas of Hogwarts, which only they can use and they can see. Later on they're busted, and they also find a document which says Dumbledore's army, for which Dumbledore actually takes responsibility, even though he had no idea of this, and Dumbledore is sacked and he's no longer the headmaster of Hogwarts. And this makes Professor Umbridge, who was the Defense Against Dark Arts professor, now the master of Hogwarts, and she tries to make their life a living hell. She tries to impose new rules, like people can't get together. There's a bunch of different rules how she tries to make their lives miserable. Harry Potter also is seen to have seeing in his dreams what Voldemort sees in his plans or in his vision, and that's how Harry Potter gets insight into some of Voldemort's thoughts. One of which is towards the end of the movie, where he sees Sirius Black is in trouble, and Harry Potter somehow figures out a way to take his friends, who are a part of Voldemort's so-called army, to go and help Sirius Black. But sadly, Harry Potter loses Sirius Black towards the end of this movie, so he loses his godfather, I should say. Overall, I think this movie is about 3.5 or 4 out of 5. I didn't like it as much compared to other movies that I watched before this in the first 4 movies of the Harry Potter series. Voldemort escapes, of course, and Dumbledore comes and saves Harry Potter, if I remember correctly, and Harry Potter is back at Hogwarts along with his friends. Only casualty being Sirius Black, of course. And then one other thing that you see in this movie is Harry Potter makes a new friend, and apparently they see for the first time that the carriage is being drawn. If you remember every movie, once the students start coming into Hogwarts, there's a big carriage that draws the students from the train station to Hogwarts. These carriages are actually drawn by dead horses, which I believe, I don't know what the exact names are, but these horses are only seen by people who have seen death from close. So Harry Potter, since he saw death from close at the beginning of the movie, starts seeing these characters, these horse-like characters, which only Harry and the other people, one of his friends, can see because they have seen death from really close. So that's another insight into this movie. Overall, like I said, about 3.5 stars out of 5, and I'm excited to see part 6 of the Harry Potter movie series.